Okay, it says I'm live. Just want to check if I am live. Hold on. I just want to make sure I am live. Okay, looks like I am live. Right. Good evening, everybody. Those that don't know me, my name is Miles, and I've been helping a few companies with the fishing rights application process 2021-2022, and it all started I think two weeks ago. The system went live. Prior to that, of course, we had policies gazetted, and then we also had a draft application form. After the application form, we had a specimen application form, and that was the application form that everybody had for a few weeks in preparation for the online system. So I think the best way to start is just the registration process. So first of all, very important is that there are two different registration entities. The one is if you're an individual, and why you're an individual is that if you are an individual, you can only apply for traditional line fish. So when you do your registration, you have to indicate whether you are an individual or whether you are an entity. If you pick individual, you're not going to see all the commercial sectors. And if you pick entity, you're not going to see traditional line fish. So that's number one. How the process works is you register, you put up your name, you put up your details, they send you an email, and they'll send you an email with your username and then with your password. You have the option to go back and change the password into something quite easy, because I received a lot of messages for some of the passwords that had underscore on, and a lot of people didn't know what the underscore was, number one. So first, just the online process. It does seem daunting in the beginning, especially if you're not really tech savvy. But as you use it more and more, you get used to the process. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to go through the rules first. So in the first page of the application form. So just remember, very important that the application form, that is the last application form, the hard copy that you need to use. You can see here it says specimen on it. So specimen is the one that you use. I came across some people using the draft one. Just make sure that the process is for specimen. So if you have to look at the application form, what are the sectors that are available for this rights, for 2015 rights? Those of you that have been following my blog, I'm sure you would have seen which ones are available. It doesn't say here. Let me just see here quickly if I have it. Yeah, it doesn't say here. Anyway, okay. So the commercial sectors are the hake longline. Most of the people are doing hake longline, hake deep sea. Then we're doing the hake longline, hake deep sea. We're doing the squid. Sorry, I was supposed to prepare for this, but today was just a bit mad. And then there are 12 altogether. So you can go to the policies and you can see which species are available. Very important, you need to know that each species has got a specific grant of right fee. So it means that when you apply for it, you need to pay first. The most expensive one is, of course, the deep sea. That's about 40,000 Rand. And then you get the smaller ones. The one that is for free is traditional line fish. That's if you do it in your personal capacity, as in your ID as an individual. That is for free, so you can apply for that. So I'm going to go through the rules. I'm using the specimen document. You can see it says specimen. So just a few of the rules that are very important for the application process. Number one, every document must be certified. If you're using an annexure and you're uploading something, it must be certified, number one. Also, just to note as well, is that some of the annexures that you see, we're going to move over to the annexures later, but there's a difference in annexure number in the specimen document and the one that's online. So what I've done is, for you, maybe you could do it as well, is there is a specimen document with all the annexures. You can see here it says annexures. And then I printed the one that's on the online system. So the online system has annexures, but it varies. So if I give you a breakdown of the application form, there are 10 sections in the application form, and I'm going to focus on the commercial sector now. Not traditional lionfish, there's a shorter, but commercial. So commercial is 10 sectors. Number one, the first section is who you are, the profile of your company, and we're going to go in for section and section. So who you are. Number two is what have you done previously in the fishing industry? Do you have rights? Number three is whether you've been convicted of any criminal against the Marine Living Resources Act, or when your directors are being charged criminally for anything. That's a very basic question. Number four is your vessels. So whether you have access to vessels, we'll touch on the vessels. Some of the questions I receive from vessels, I'll touch on that. Number five is your business plan and your fishing plan. We're going to touch on that, what it means and what's the intention of that document. So I had a chat with, I sent a few questions to the department, and the department then showed that they gave me some like guidance of what is required. Number six is the biggest section. That is the transformation section. That's the most one. That's with everything: employees, directors, shareholders, and we'll touch about that. Number seven. Let me just look at number seven. Number seven was your employment, creation of employment, payroll, what you're paying your people, and your employment profile. And then number eight is the new one that wasn't there in the previous FRAP process, and that's your SARS, what you have to pay for SARS, and just your tax, your relationship with SARS, but also what is your investment into the fishing industry. So if we go to the rules, so the first rule of the thing is everything has to be certified, number one. So your documents need to be certified by a commission of oaths. I sent a question to the department, and the department said that you could also ask somebody at your church or a traditional healer. I'm not going to show the complete inbox now, but I'll just give you an indication of what they said. I'll show you FRAP. So the question I asked is, okay, I can't find it now. Sorry, I was supposed to be paid, but today was met. So everything must be certified. So when you do the application, advice is get the arch lever file, print all the documents first. You have to print it because you need to certify it. And then you split up your file into the 10 sections, and you put all the annexures into the 10 sections. And you answer the questions in the application form. So part of the 10 sections, each section has an annexure where you have to upload. Sometimes you have to, they give you a space for comment, but most of the times you have to upload the document. So because it has to be certified, you must have it printed, you put it in your file. Then what I do suggest is you take the document that was certified, and then you upload it onto your desktop, and then you save it as annexure 1A1, annexure 2B1. Because when you do the upload, we're going to talk about the online experience now, but when you do the upload, you can at least just put everything easily in place. So the rules, right, everything has to be certified. They all gave you a toll-free number and a support IT number that you can send emails to. Number two is you also must at least read your policies, because your policies will indicate what is the intention and what they're looking at when they going to do some of the assessments. And then what else is very important? And also important is the fees. So some of the questions I received was in terms of the fees and how do you pay it. So on the last page of the application form, I'm going to touch on the payment now. There wasn't a gazette that gave an indication of what every fee is for every sector. So every sector you apply for, there's a fee you have to pay. before you can submit your application form, you have to pay the fee, and you upload the proof of payment, and then they go over, and then you can submit the document, and it will show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen now, and then we're going to go through the online process, because I've got I have a profile for myself, FRAP system. Okay, I'm going to share it. I just want to make sure you guys can see what I'm seeing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can see what I'm seeing. Okay. So if you go through, if you go through this process, you can see. So I've got the commercial application. What this means is, what this means is these are all the sectors that are up for renewal. You can see it's squid, South Coast rock lobster, hake, longline, KZN, crustacean trawl, commercial shark, tuna pole, small pelagic, anchovy and sardine, and then hake deep sea trawl. So those are all the applications that are available for you to apply. So like I said, each one of them, they have a fee attached. So if I just have to give you background for the fishing industry, is you get 3 categories. Number 1 is category A. It means that if you do have a right in the sector that you're applying for, so what it means is you're renewing your right. You're a category A applicant. Category B is when you have rights or quota in another sector and you're applying for a different sector. So it means that you've got fishing industry knowledge and you're applying in a different sector. And then category C is a total new entrant. So it means you don't have rights and you're trying, you want to try your chance in getting into the application process of FRAP. So that is your 3 categories. So if we take the long line, so others applicate. So the experience on online is you will of course go to the front page, and once you go to the front page, you put in your password and then you put in your username, and then you're going to see this page. This is the you're going to see a page where they're going to give you access to the application forms, which is the specimen application form. Always here in the black section, you'll have your application submission. So what invariably happens, and one of the challenges I've noticed, is that when you go on to the first time, so you put in your username and you put in your password and you get to the page where you can get your PDF, you won't necessarily see this application submission here. What you need to do is you need to log out and then you log in again. So once you've logged out and logged in again, most of the times you are able to see this application submission. And once you click on application submission, once you click on here, this is the page you will see. So you'll be able to see this whole page here. So what this means is that you can now pick what sector you want to apply for. So if it is if you want to apply for any of these sections, you just have to click on generate. So what generate will do is very important. It will give you an application number, and this is the application number you will have to use when you pay for your application form. It will show you the status, generate, and then of course edit. So what happens if you don't see this? It means that you have to log out and you log in again. So that is that was one of the things I experienced, is that if you don't see this, log out and log in again. That's mainly what fixes it for me, is that. And just a proviso on this session is that I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to assist those, because there are quite a few, or I've received a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls of people that are just a bit nervous because the deadline is on Friday. And I'm getting the same questions and the same problems. So I just thought let's just have a session for those that want to possibly see, possibly have some insight. So once you click on to edit. So this is, you can see the 10 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is where you fill in your information. So just remember that the annexures of this page is different to the specimen document. Just remember that, because what people have done is they've taken the specimen document and they've done the annexures according to the specimen document. And when they come to do the online profile, you're going to see that some of the annexures have changed. Not all of them. only a few of them. So what the biggest changes are is that they've added, previously it wasn't in there, but they've added, maybe I can make this bigger for you. Let me see. Yeah, they've added, under 4, there was a part where there's you require photos. So you see the section here that was never in the previous one. So now you have to take photos of your vessels, and those are the vessels that are not applicable. So hake deep sea trawl, hake longline, and squid. If you're not applying, if you're not applying for those, if you are applying for those, you don't need to take photos. I saw one of the questions were the reasoning behind the photos. I really don't know. Maybe it's for IUU purposes, so maybe they want to see whether the vessel is an active vessel. Of course, they ask it because previously something happened in the previous application that they needed to make sure that there is actually a vessel. And then, of course, the IUU is also an application, and then they've included the economic unit. So I'll chat on economic units when we go through. So you can see that once you have completed your application form, you need to indicate on here what you included and what you've not included. For me, it would have been perfect if you uploaded something in section 1, that it automatically uploaded here, because it would just make life a bit easier. So let's go through the annexures, and I'll just speak about some of the questions or queries I got. So certified copy cooperative registration documents. Just remember, you have to include your MOI if you are a company. So for the company, please include your MOI. Each page must be certified. So if you're a company, you need your Sub-C documents and your MOI documents. If you are a CC, I haven't worked with the trust and the cooperative, but if you are a CC, you have to include all your CK documents. What's also very interesting is they don't ask for any IDs of directors or certified IDs. So if they don't ask it, then you don't have to include it. Certified tax clearance certificate, always make sure that it's up to date. It hasn't expired. I've received a few that has expired. Make sure that you include it, because you need to include it on the application form. A letterhead, so it means that the company is giving someone authority to complete the application. That must be certified. You include the ID of the person that is authorized and certify that as well. So it means you really have to certify. Proof of address. We all go through, we open accounts everywhere at various institutions. You know what is proof of address. And remember, it's not PO box. It has to be residential. And second of all, it mustn't be older than 3 months. So just remember, it's the same as with SARS. It's the same with the bank. Mustn't be older than 3 months. Outline the applicant's institutional structures indicating holding entities. So this is basically for big entities that have a lot of underlying structures at the bottom. If you are one-man show, just indicate that you are 100% owner. What I always tell my clients, or what I do for the clients, is I do a organogram and I say, this is the company's name and these are the shareholders of the company. You don't have to go into detail about the profile of the shareholder, but just so the reader or the department can see that how's your company structure looking. If you have one big company or small underlying companies, then you must just illustrate that. And that's basically also for reasons that people know who's applying, because they want to avoid, they said in the policies, they said they want to avoid monopolies. So what they're trying to do is they don't want one company to have various applications at the bottom, but because they also have to disclose it. Upload document to support your applicant's answers in the fishing industry. So this is your time to brag about yourself. This is the time where you speak about your role in the fishing industry. Some of my clients, I say, write a letter and show the department your fishing industry knowledge. Use your shareholders, use your directors, use your company profile, and explain to them, this is how long I've been in the fishing industry, and this is the value I've added in the fishing industry. So very important, uploaded documentation in that support. It's going to, Then, no. Just hold on. Right. Then that is one. So remember, your annexures in section 1 is basically for the reader to understand, who am I dealing with? Who is this company? How are they structured? And do they have experience in the fishing industry? Because Of course, you'd want to be able to give assistance to companies that have, or preference to companies that have experience in the fishing industry, but also if there are people that don't have, they will also have to explain why do they want to be in the fishing industry. So if you have any knowledge about the fishing industry, you have to include it. So section 2 is also short. It's just 2 sections. What do they want you to do? They want to understand where you also have fishing rights and what are the fishing rights that you own. So if I just look at section 2, so yeah, what I've also done is I've printed out the application form as it is on the FRAP process, so it's much easier. So in the section 2, they want to know, has the applicant been awarded commercial rights in the past, yes or no, and they want to know what sectors you are involved in. Also, you just have to upload your catch permit, your grant of right letter, or your section 21. Very important also is if you transferred the right to someone else, but you're not the holder of that anymore, you don't have to indicate it. But if it was transferred to you, you have to indicate where it was. I think that is also just to ensure that people that have rights in the past, that they just have to disclose to the department that I had rights 3 or 4 years ago, but I then transferred it to someone else. So if it falls within that period between the 2015 or 2015 rights, then you have to, of course, upload it. Subsidiaries, so this is just basically to see where companies are applying in which sectors. So they're not saying in the policies that you're not allowed to have rights in different sectors, but here they just want to understand where is your fishing interest. So remember, in the section 1 it was who is this company, what is the profile. Section 2 is what interest you have in the fishing industry. Where do you get your income from? Where else do you get your income from? Because you must also remember you are uploading annual financial statements. So you cannot fabricate information and don't lie on the information, because if you are successful, it has been announced in one of the gazettes that they've appointed a forensic team and you're going to be audited. So there's no point in trying to fabricate information. So number 2, if you just look at all the annexures in number 2, it's just a copy of the latest commercial permit, and then if you have interests, income from other sectors, then you just have to include the annual financial statement. Section 2 is very simple. You just have to complete the section. Nothing untoward about that section. So that's very easy. Section 3, I don't even copy section 3 because section 3 has been the same throughout. It is where they've been found guilty of anything. What's interesting is they ask you in section 3 about whether you've been found guilty of anything. Sorry, I just want to open the commercial one. So in question 3, they ask you regarding health and safety and COIDA. They don't ask for proof of COIDA. So it says, is the applicant fully compliant with Compensation Injuries Disease Act, which is COIDA, which means you're registered with COIDA. So one of the requirements in terms of law is that if you employ one person, you have to be registered with COIDA. So if you don't have a COIDA certificate, you can't say you are compliant. You're only compliant if you've registered with COIDA. They don't ask for proof, but like I said, you will be audited. So if you either have a certificate or you don't have a certificate. I just want to go to the application form because I see they changed it as well. Okay, but then they ask you Occupational Health and Safety Act. Yes or no, I don't know how you can prove whether you're compliant with Health and Safety Act. But like I said, if you're going to get audited, you're probably going to have to prove that you have some form of health and safety process in place. And then in the specimen, they had Basic Conditions of Employment Act and then Customs and Excise Act. So those are important items. So section 4, very important. So section 4, we move over to the vessels. I think I can probably just do, let me just see if it works. Yeah, okay. So of course, here you can see we have these two. So 3.8.1 and 3.8.2. It's only those two things. In the previous application, there was Basic Conditions of Employment Act and Customs and Excise Act. I was wondering why they had the Customs and Act, but it's been removed. So you can see in this section, we only have 2 COIDA if you don't have employees, you can say not applicable. But if you do have employees, you have to be registered. Occupational Health and Safety Act, like I said, if you say you are compliant and they do come knock on your door, yeah, you're just going to have some form of health and safety framework in place. But I'm assuming if you have employees, you will have all those things in place. So basically, the annexures, yeah. So one of the questions I asked the department is, if something is not applicable and the answer is no, and you don't have to submit any annexure, you don't have to upload anything. You can just leave it blank. Previously, what I did is I had an annexure in the front that said annexure A1A and then not applicable. But I think it just saves you time not to upload things. So they sent me an email and they said you can leave it out if it is not applicable. So then we move over to the vessels. Yeah, very, very interesting questions regarding the vessels. So let's start at the three scenarios. The three scenarios are: one, you either have a vessel, so you own a vessel. Number two is that you're part ownership in the vessel. And number three, you've got less than 50%. So a lot of times, and I think the question regarding that is also regarding the economic unit, that less than that third point over here. It's basically for economic unit. I'll explain about the economic unit, what my understanding is of economic unit, and then I'm sure we can look at some of the questions. So that is vessels. What you need with the vessels is, number one, you have to show ownership of the vessel. So a lot of registration certificates show the owner of the vessels. In the traditional in traditional line fish, the safety certificate shows who the owner of the vessel is. In the commercial sector, for example, like deep sea, it will show who the owner is. So you just need to show ownership on those documentation. Similarly, if you have a shareholding in a company, you can at least just add your shareholding certificate, because they ask you how did you get ownership of the share, how much it cost later in section 8. So photos important. It wasn't in the specimen, but you need photos for those the sectors except for hake deep sea, hake long line and squid. You need photos, back, front. Just take photos, aerial view, take photos included. Access agreement. So what this means is that you must at least have some form of access. So I've seen a plethora of different access agreements from different vessel owners. So what the vessel owner does is the vessel owner must grant you access to his vessel. Of course, it is not a guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed agreement. It means that if you are successful, they will catch it. If you're not successful, you have no rights towards the vessel. So also very important, some of the agreements I saw, rights holders or applicants, just make sure that you are also protected in that agreement, because some of the agreements, they more towards the vessel owning company. So it means that if you are successful, make sure that you also have control over your rights if you are successful. So what you have to upload is, of course, the vessel access agreement must be certified. If you're going to the bank guarantee, you have to get a quote by someone that does the vessel. They will give you a quote, they will give you the specs, and then you have to include it. So for the vessel, you need a safety certificate and or the registration certificate. You need to have your vessel documents, and then of course your agreement that you have, and then of course the photos. So those are the documents you have to upload. Access agreement, purchase agreement, if you're considering buying, uploaded. Vessel details, very simple. You just have to fill everything in here. You'll see there's a drop-down menu for all the various types of vessels, kilowatts, and IUU means it's like illegal fishing, unregulated, illegal, unregulated fishing, unreported, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. So if the vessel is on the IUU list, I would advise not even to take one of those vessels. But if you have a choice, you have to indicate yes. SAMHSA certificates, safety certificates, safety, those are the documents you need. The photos, we touched on the photos. Of course, this is the next year for IUU, so I've never come across a person applying for one of the IUU. And then, right, let's touch on economic units. I received many questions regarding it. I also had a discussion with the department regarding it. So economic unit, you're either in an economic unit or you're not in an economic unit. So when are you in an economic unit? You are in an economic unit. And why was it formed? You are in an economic because if we are 5 rights holders and all our quota is each our individual quota or total allocation, the TAC is not sufficient or is not economically viable to catch on one vessel. Um, yeah, it's not sufficient on one vessel. You form an economic unit. So some people form joint ventures, some people form shareholding agreements. And why is this economic unit so important throughout this application? Remember, if you had 15 years of rights, you had to show the department what you've done with those rights. If you had, for example, hike deep sea trawl rights for 15 years, the department is going to say, right, Miles, I gave you quota for 15 years. What have you done with those 15 years? You have to have an added value in the fishing industry. And what does that mean? It means, number one, have you created employment? Have you invested in the fishing industry? You'll see in Section 8 is a lot of a question of investments. Do you give your employment training? Do you do learnerships? Are you adding value to your community, to society, to South Africa's economic activity with your quota? Because it is a resource that is out there. It is owned by the government. They're giving it to you. They want you to perform. So they want you to say, think, I've got the quota, I've added, this is the value add from this quota. Because we all know that there is the problem in the fishing industry with a paper quota holder. And what is the paper quota holder? The person that gets the rights, has it for 15 years, hasn't employed anybody, hasn't bought a vessel, hasn't invested in vessels, all those things. So a paper quota holder, it's defined in the policy, is in simple form, someone that has not added value to the fishing industry. So that's very important, and that's why this application is here, because you must prove to the department, I had rights for 15 years, and this is what I've done in the bigger course of the fishing industry. And I'm going to show you in this application what I've done. So economic unit means if your quota is too small to buy a vessel, you can form an economic unit. And the economic unit means me and 5 other friends, or 4 other friends, so we 5. Each of us give 20% to a vessel. We put our quota onto the vessel and we give 20% towards the investment of the vessel. So if we buy a vessel of 10 million rand, we've got 5 quota holders together. Somehow we must show the department that we've created employment, number one, with a small quota, and we've invested in the fishing industry with a small quota, and that we've created economic activity on the harbor or in a processing factory, and. So why do they ask, does the applicant make use of an economic unit? They're asking this because they want to see whether you've been on your own all the time with your small quota and done nothing in the fishing industry, or whether you've joined hands with other other fishing rights and created something, a unit, for example, a joint venture or shareholders agreement for a vessel. And what this entails is that if you want to prove your employment, so there are 10 crewmen on the vessel, all 5 of us cannot claim all 10, because it means that we, as a joint venture, we have 50 employees, which is not true. So if there's 10 crew members on a vessel, you need to have some form of economic unit agreement. And in that economic unit agreement, you must explain to the department what is your proportion of this economic unit. Because if you're going to claim employment through all for the 10 crew, and you're going to claim investment for buying a new engine of R1 million, all 5 rights holders cannot claim the same amount. So somehow you need to illustrate to the department, I have a quota, it's a small quota, I've entered into economic unit, a joint venture, I'm a joint venture partner, I'm a shareholder in a vessel, and this is what I have created over the 15 years with my small quota. But it's also obvious that they will know you have to report in the past. So if you went into a joint venture last year or in the past 6 months, of course the department is going to see you've only figured out now that you have to go into a joint venture. So, but the reason for that is the economic unit is for you to prove to the department that you've partnered with people. This is I'm claiming employment. This is I'm claiming investments. But your economic unit agreement need to illustrate that to the department, because if five rights holders have an application to the department, that economic unit agreement will be in all 5 applications, and they're going to illustrate, because you gave us a small quota, we've created so much employment out of the quota. So that is economic unit. So where does economic, and it's obvious throughout the application, where does economic units creep up in the application form? Number one, in the vessels, which means your investment in vessels. Number two, your employment. And number three is, of course, in this one where they can see whether you've got access to a vessel and what have you done with that vessel. And you can show later, how did you, they're going to ask you later, how did you get hold of those questions? How did you get hold of those shares? Yeah, also very important, you'll see that something popped up here. It says want to save. A lot of people, what I've realized is they fill in something and then they go to this section. You have to say save and submit, because you're going to, everything will disappear. So one of the challenges I had is some of the information also disappeared, but then, I just had to put everything back again, but I think it improved over time. Fishing performance, like I said, you've had rights for 15 years, illustrate to the department, who caught your rights, who caught your quota, number of crew, quota, all that information. So you have this information as a rights holder. A lot of people have asked me, I don't have access to this information. Where do I get the information? If you don't have it by the department, asking the department now, I don't think you're going to get it. But whatever you have to include. So you can see it only says category A applicants need to complete this. It means the department wants to see, number one, whether you've activated your permit every year, that you've caught your fish every year, and what you've created throughout the 15 years that you had your right. So then of course there's a business plan. Right, so the business plan, my conversation with the department regarding the business plan or fishing plan is, if I read what it says here, it says it applies to category A, B, and C. The business plan should sufficiently inform to allow for an assessment of requirements that the business needs to be operational. This could include tonnage, catch processing, TAC regulated fishing, and then efforts in terms of a TAE regulated fishery. This document is, for example, you need to show the department, if you get quota, what you're going to do with the quota. So of course, we all know in the fishing industry, there are 3 important criteria. It is the harvesting, which is the catching. It is the processing, where everything happens in the factory on board. And then it's, of course, the marketing. So this business plan is a forward-looking document. The forward-looking document will say, I've seen a few floating around in the department, which doesn't address the questions as in the application form. So what you need to do is you say, I've got the vessel. This is the vessel this is how much the vessel can catch. This is the crew, how many people on the vessel, where you're going to catch the fish, daily rate, what is the tonnage, and then where you're going to offload the information, where you're going to offload the catch, because where you offloading, that's when the processing starts. Where are you going to process the fish, and then who also markets the fish. So if you touch on those 3 items on your application form for your business plan, just be careful to not copy and paste from other business plans. I've seen 2 or 3 business plans where people, there are 3 or 4 companies that did business plans, and it's just spread through as a wildfire through the applications. So just very important, apply your mind to the question, and the question is, if you get quota, what are you going to do with the quota? How does your knowledge, how are you be able to add value in those 3 processes? So this is the quota, this is the vessel's going to catch it, this is where we're going to offload it, and this is where we're going to market it. There's no right or wrong answer here, but I think you need to just be a little bit more creative and not just copy and paste from other business plans. Because it's easily identifiable. So so if you look at the section of fishing performance, your business plan, fishing plan, just I've been helping a few traditional line fish guys, and I must say they've got the best business plans. The commercial sector have been using the same one, but the line fish guys, I mean, they have really thought out where do they catch it, where do they process, how do they market. You can see they're putting a lot of effort in their application forms, which is very, quite encouraging from a traditional line fish. Right, then it's of course the monster of section transformation. This is of course the department wants to know whether you've improved your transformation over the 15 years. What is your employment profile? Very big this time is what is your woman economic interest, youth economic interest, disabled economic interest, and black people's economic interest. In the previous application, there was some reference to MK veterans. I see it's not in this one. So just remember the economic interest and the unrestricted voting interest in terms of the explanation in the explanatory notes is the same thing. So they want to see whether you've improved over years with the economic interest and unrestricted voting. Then also very important, an auditor's letter is required for two things, actually three, but for this section it's two. You need to get an auditor's letter to confirm your directors and confirm your shareholders. You need to do that. I had a question to the department regarding if I'm a small business, I don't have auditors. I'm just started. How do I confirm this? And they said at this stage, you need to get your auditors or your bookkeeper. You need to get confirmation from that, because I said for directors, you could use the sub-C documents. It will be there. It shows proof. With the shareholders, you can just ask your director to confirm the shareholders, or because he will be accountable as a director. But they said at this stage you have to use accounting or auditor. So very important, auditor or bookkeeper needs to confirm that how your profile is looking. B certificate, we all know what the B certificate is, or affidavit. If you're a smaller company, you just have plain and simple. So your auditor's letter is included here, but also, because this is the reason for the auditor's letter is also for the department to see what is going on in the company, who are the shareholders, is there anything obscure that need to be identified. Employment share scheme, this was interesting. In the previous draft, it wasn't there, and then it appeared in the specimen. I see it's back again. I don't think there are many companies that have employment share scheme, but if you do have one, you have to click yes. You answer the question, very straightforward. I mean, nothing untoward about it. Proof of what you've paid them, dividends over the years. Management, of course, big emphasis on youth, black, woman, disabled. So you just have to include the information, very straightforward. Also very interesting, they don't ask for any IDs of any of the information. So if you're successful, they'll probably have to audit you. Then of course, again, auditor's letter, you can see here. So annexure 6B1 and 6C1 is your auditor's letter. So I'm just asking auditor to do one letter with shareholding and director, and just copy and I put them on both 6B and 6.1. Then this is a very complicated document regarding your employee structure, but every business must complete it, because what the department wants to know is, of course, your employee profile. So this is information that is on your EEA2 document, so you have to submit it. It's very plain and simple. So is your applicant a designated employer? There is a criteria for a designated employer. I think it's 500,000 or 50 employees. So you just have to say yes or no, and then you have to answer the questions. Most of the new interns won't have all this information. But I mean, if you do have the information, you can add it. Why they're asking this information is, of course, just for job creation. They want to see how's your employee profile, what are you doing, who's working for you, are you compliant, is the employment equity plan, do you have a workplace skills plan, are you sending your people on learnerships? I mean, exactly, if you had rights for 15 years, you must by now have employed somebody or a few people. Then top management, very plain, plain and simple. I mean, there's nothing untoward about that. Then CSI, very important. I mean, I saw a plethora of people as donating to the SRI because they Section 18A. That is one of the institutions, so they must send you a letter to confirm that you've paid. Any donations, they must send you a letter of a donation. So if you pay the NRCI in RSI, in SRI, they will send you a letter. But all donations, if you donate to a school, to a creche, to a church, to any NGO organization that's not Section 18A, you have to show proof. Normally the proof is, thanks, Miles, for the donation, and this is the value. We really appreciate it. So then you add those stuff. So, and then, of course, you have to include your information for the past 3 years. Upload with proof. Photos are nice. If you bought a jungle gym photo, if you painted a creche photo, you can upload the information. Affirmative procurement. What I always tell the clients is have a list of all your service providers, and then differentiate between black owned and non-black owned. Take the black owned, and then of course you can fill this document in. So it's not necessary. A lot of people are sending me the black owned companies with the BE certificates and. There is no place in this application form to upload that information. So, but just keep it anyway. You have to complete the section 6.16, and that is just the sum you have to make with your procurement spend over the past 3 years. So you must have the information, but there's nothing to upload at this stage. Skills development. Are you compliant? Are you registered? CETA, which CETA? There's a letter you get from the CETA, very simple. And of course, very important, if you aren't compliant, why not? So you need to include that information. The EMP document, payment state, upload levies paid. So you just have to prove over the past 5 years, what have you paid over the years. Then also, this is all got to do with your employees. Are you sending them on training? Are you doing learnerships, workplace skills plan? You either have one or you don't have one if you registered with the CETA. Learnership programs, you have to show proof of the learnership programs. A lot of companies in the fishing industry have it, which is very, very cool. Then training, of course, spend your training department, if you have one, will have all this information because they have to report it anyway on an annual basis. Enterprise development, I say these are initiatives or programs that you have in your organization where you've helped a small business grow. So, for example, if you do PPE and you took one of the employees or a local company and you said, I will buy you I'll buy you a lawn, a washing machine, then that's part of enterprise development. So you'd know if you do have something for SMMEs. 2 years ago, I told the client to start something with laundromat. They started something, and now they can at least brag about this in this application process. So again, the section 6, very detailed, a lot of information, a lot of annexures. So of course you have to make sure that all the information is accurate because you're sending in your EEA document, and of course they'll verify it with us. So I'm not liking section 6 because it's so long and detailed, but also this is the one section. One of the challenges I got is when I complete this and I say save and next, it goes to another page that looks like hieroglyphics, yellow line with red. I've sent this to IT. I sent it to them last week Thursday because it's been bugging every time. What happens is when it goes to that page, everything just disappears. So I haven't experienced that yesterday and today. So this is section 6. If you have the information, you have the information. Job creation here. This is, of course, very interesting. They're separating what is your land-based, what is permanent and seasonal or contractual, but also what is land-based and what is sea-based. So nothing untoward here. Information is very straightforward. You can't lie here because you have to prove everything. Medical aid. If you are supplying medical aid, I think the Lionfish Association has something there. Pension provident. You either yes or no. And does the applicant provide all its employees with safe working conditions? What I'm telling my client is include everything. So if you do drills, if you do meetings, included. If you're sending your people off for training for their PSSR, their PST, or you're sending them for pre-C, included. It just shows that you'll be providing employees safe working conditions. If you have a safety management system included, PPE included. I mean, you have to include everything that you have. So, but then you also have to include why not. So sometimes people have seasonal, so they don't they're not able to do pension and provident, but you just have to explain whether you can. Again, we have the economic units. Why do we have it here? For jobs. How many jobs can you claim? So you have to explain to the department, because the reader might not know. It might be a different reader for every section. Explain to the department exactly why are you in the economic unit and how many people you employ based on your economic unit. So section 7, job creation, very straightforward, nothing untoward there. This is also a brand new section. People are busy crying about the section because they have to dig back all the way to 2006 to whether they paid your taxes, dividends, and then of course very interesting applicant listed on the stock market. I mean, we in the fishing industry we only have 3 companies that are not 3, I mean 2, and one of the other holding companies. So very interesting. I don't know why they have that. And then annual financial statements audited for the past 3 years, all your SARS stuff, and then the dividends to black shareholders. So that is also in the explanatory notes. It's saying you need to get auditor's confirmation of dividends to black shareholders. So if you have employment of ownership scheme, you have to improve it, and your shareholders, you have to prove it. So make sure you have all that information. So of course, this whole section has got to do with investment. So like I mentioned, if you have rights for 15 years, the department wants to see what have you done with the quota we gave you. You've had it for 15 years. If you had an agreement with a company and the company was just catching it and you were just getting your payment every month, every year, you're going to have a problem here. If you didn't employ anybody, you're going to have a problem with this application. If you didn't invest in the industry, you're going to have a problem here. So the department wants to know, I've given you rights for 15 years. What are you doing? If you're a new entrant, there's not so much applicable here. If you're category C, not so much. If you're category B, you can also say, because they're asking in other sectors, you can also say what you've done. So you can see value adding activities. What I say for the smaller guys, what's value add? If you got if you're a line fish operator and you had an NRCS certificate, you can include it because that is, of course, is a value add activity for you. Local economic development. Yeah, where have you been? If you've been in Hermanus all this time, what have you done with the quota? Where have you uploaded it? Because here they can indicate, here they'll be able to see if you had rights for 15 years and you didn't activate your right, then you have a problem, because it means that you weren't catching fish and you were taking fish away from someone who'd probably be able to have access to the fish. And then just remember 8.8. So this 8.7 is in the past. You can see landed and processed. So where is the harbor and so you can see those columns. 8.8 is to be landed and processed. So they want to know, if I give you a quota, what harbor are you going to offload it, how often you're going to use it, what factory you're going to use, how often you're going to use it. So if you're using 2 factories and 2 harbors, you can indicate 50%. 50% if you're processing if you're a processing facility, you can include it. But very interesting here. I would have thought they would want you to show some form of access or processing agreement, because I mean, how does the factory know that you include their name there? So, but you don't have to show processing. So you could just say, I'm going to offload at Houtbaai. I use it 100% of the time. I'm going to use a factory there. Let's use Oceana because it's not there anymore. And then I'm using it 100%. So you don't have to prove that you offloading there. But very interesting. So section 8, partly new section for taxes. So very important to have all your things in place. Investments again, land-based, sea-based, in the sector, outside the sector. So for the past 5 years, you really have to show You had quota for 15 years. What did you do with the quota? Because what the department is looking at is they're saying, I've given you rights for quota for 15 years. I'm taking it back. Give me a reason to give it back to you. Give me a reason, because if you didn't demonstrate or illustrate that you've added value to the fishing industry, I don't think I must give you the rights back. Because if you don't have a valid reason for not creating employment, for not investing a small amount into a vessel, you're going to have a massive problem, and then you are really going to fulfill the requirements of a paper quota holder. So very important. Yeah, and also the other, in terms of the lionfish, I've seen a lot of the vessel owners, but young guys that bought vessels, but the rights holders are quite old. I encourage the young guys that have a vessel, that have been catching all this stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong for you to apply for your own fishing rights if you're in the traditional line fish application, because if you're a vessel owner, remember, we don't know what the criteria of the scoring is, but if you're a vessel owner, you will get more points for someone that doesn't have a vessel. So yeah, if you're a vessel owner, you have to have some form of application for traditional line fish. Yeah, this is just investments. So the department wants to see, if I've given you 10,000 tons of quota for 15 years and you haven't made any investment, yeah, you're going to have to please explain why you haven't made an investment. Similarly, if I've given you 10,000 tons of a deep sea trawl and you haven't employed anybody, you have to explain why you haven't employed anybody. So this part, investments, is they're giving you opportunity to show, if you've received X amount every year, what did you do with it? They're giving you freedom. They're asking you a lot of questions. They say investments in processing activity, investments in marketing activity, investments in vessels. So they're giving you the opportunity here. They're actually quite nice, and they're saying, show us what you've done with the money that you received from the quota. And if you can't answer these things and you've had quota for 15 years, yeah, you might have a problem. Then also make use of economic units. We've touched on it again. Please explain to the department, I've had an unviable quota. It wasn't good enough. I couldn't invest in a vessel myself. I needed to partner with smaller rights holders to form a joint venture or economic unit. And now, because of this economic unit, I can employ 10 people. I'm contributing to the employment of 10 people. I'm contributing to fish being offloaded in a factory, but you can't claim that because you have to add your economic unit agreement. Then number 10, yeah, very interesting. There's no signature here. You just say yes or no. And also very interesting here, was applicant prepared by a person or entity other than the applicant? And why was someone consulted for advice? I'm very honest here. I'm saying I'm completing the application for someone, and this is the charge I'm charging them for it. If assisted, please provide details of the consultant they prepared. I put my name in there, and also I put my name in. Oh, sorry. And I also put my name in over here. So over where it says position held, I just put in the consultant. You can see that it pops up because, yeah, I'm helping them, and because I can understand this process is a bit, yeah, it can get wild. So yeah, very interesting. There's no signature. You just submit. There's no return document to confirm anything. Someone called me today and he said he heard people are saying that you get a scorecard once you submit. Yeah, I haven't heard of a scorecard from anybody. I've submitted a few and I've hadn't seen it. Then of course the summary. Yeah, I would have loved this to be a much more informative document, because you can complete, for example, I made the example to the department, you can complete the whole section 11 and you will never be 100% complete. It would be nice to see what you have complete, what you have uploaded, even the next year form here right at the end, because then you can have a summary. Or similarly, just press something like you do on SARS and they give you a whole summary of what you're missing and what are the stuff that would have been perfect. But in the absence of it, this doesn't, for me, it doesn't give me a good indication of the document. So then payment method, there was talks in the policy about the payment gateway. I think it's not available yet. So the bank transaction number is your payment number. You can see I've done a few here already. That is just your payment number. It's got nothing to do with the FRAP application number. It is your reference number because they want to see this payment was done for this proof of payment. So you have to pay up front, you give the proof of payment, and then you upload the payment. Date of payment, obvious, amount paid, whatever the amount is, anchovy, pilchard. And then this document would be this amount there. So you need to pay. Once you've paid, you upload, you pick the thing, you pick your proof of payment, you upload, you submit, and all that happens, it says application submitted. Nothing happens after that. So, and what's also interesting is once you submit it, you cannot go back and look at the application at all. So, so this is the gist of it. I see that there are a few questions, so I think maybe we must just look at some of the questions quickly. Let's start at the top. Right. So I'm not going to add the questions because maybe some people don't want the questions to be seen. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube. 6.10, does this question only refer to direct employment, or can employment created through economic units also be taken into account and reflected on the table? Yeah, so like I said, the economic unit, you have to show, if you have an economic unit, make sure you have a shareholders agreement, make sure that indicates the proportion of your shareholding whatever economic unit you have. So for me, the intention of, my explanation of economic unit when it comes to employment is, if the person is not on your payroll, you cannot claim that employment. If you're not paying for payroll, you can't claim that employment. However, if you are in an economic unit, your shareholders agreement or your economic unit agreement has to illustrate or demonstrate to the department that because of my quota, I'm creating jobs on the vessel. So one could also argue that, I'm creating jobs on the vessel, but my fish that is caught can also be included on the processing factory. I think that's not the intention of this. The intention is they want you to show your direct employment of your quota that you have. And if you don't have the quota, if you don't have direct employment, you have to prove it through your economic unit. And so, in this document, you need to at least just illustrate to the department what your business is doing, how you're creating employment, how you're investing, where's the money going. Illustrate that you have opportunity where it says comment at the bottom, illustrate it, because the reader might be different for every section. It was announced that there are going to be 8 delegated authorities. So if you want to, in each question, answer the question in full and don't make an assumption that the same person is reading the document. What do you think is the rationale behind the request for photos and why? I have no idea. I think, I have no idea. It must be something that happened in the past, or people added vessels that probably don't exist or foreign, or I'm not sure. I think I have no idea. Is the FRAP application process applicable to oyster permit holders too, as the online application is mainly for lionfish? Yeah, so I mentioned the sectors that are up for renewal, Francois. Hake deep sea, hake longline, small pelagic, which is the pilchard and the anchovy, KwaZulu-Natal prawn, trawl, squid, tuna, pole, demersal shark, and then South Coast rock lobster. So oyster is not a lot of people called me because they thought this process is the permit application process for next year. So Francois, no. This is only for traditional lionfish, so it's commercial sectors at the stage that are up for renewal. Thanks Jan for the message. Unadi, USA Donald Trump. Oh my gosh. Can you please mention where category C is not applicable and how to go about answering the questions? So category C is a new entrant. So for me, it would be the ideal would have been if you type in category C at the beginning, it just will kick out the sections for category C. So So I suggest what you do is you indicate not applicable and not for you, because if you're a new company and don't have employees, indicate not applicable. Tell them I don't have employees. I'm not registered for employment equity. I'm not a designated employer in terms of skills development. Indicated. Mark does want you to upload all the vessel details if you are not a boat owner. So, Mark, in terms, if you're not a boat owner, you have to have one of three things as in the application is a vessel access agreement. You want to get bank guaranteed, or you got the quote that you have intention of buying a vessel. But you need to indicate, because the reason why you need to upload the vessel details is each sector has got a vessel specification. So each sector has got length, weight, all those type of things. So when you apply, they need to make sure that whatever vessel you're using fulfills the requirements of the vessel required in the policy. So if it is a pelagic vessel in the sardine and anchovy, it needs to fulfill those requirements. If it's a deep sea, it needs to fulfill those requirements. If it's South Coast rock lobster, and that's the department wants to see that the vessel that you're using is the vessel that you get access to. Yeah, you need to upload the vessel details, but it's not I mean, if you're looking at the sectors, what they want is photos, so it's not a lot. You have 4 photos of the vessel, and the other one that's necessary is the registration certificate, because the registration certificate will give all the details of the vessel, so the department will be able to know. The MK bits is relevant for BE, yeah, 100%. Mark, for procurement, can you add your economic unit procurement info? Yes, Mary, like I said, if you are an economic unit, you need to include that information and explain why. Because if you have 5 people on one vessel and all of you are claiming 100% of the procurement, that's going to be double dipping, and it's like the department, I think, will not see it as the correct information. I mean, the department is also very strong about if they find out that people are using the economic unit for the wrong reasons, they're going to issue Section 28s after being audited. So very important. Do you only talk about economic unit information under the section or combine it? So they're asking it in the 3 places, but it falls on 2 premises. One is employment and creation of employment. The other one is investment and in vessels. So you can see those are the 2 things that economic unit touches on. The 2 things is economic unit for employment, what you have created for employment with your quota, and investment, what have you invested in the fishing industry with your quota. If you have a small 200-ton anchovy quota and you can't really employ anybody or buy a vessel, you of course have to illustrate to the department, I've got so little, I've got the unviable quota, I've partnered with people, and because I've partnered, we can now create a business together. So your joint venture agreement or your economic unit agreement that needs to illustrate that. When they ask for information, for example, medical aid, is it for 15 years or only for the last 3 years? So, Mary Ann, I think for the medical aid, let's look at the application form. Because I saw they just ask for proof, and if no, why? So, I think, Mary Ann, it's as long as you have it. I mean, if you have given your employees medical aid for the past 15 years, it's your time to shine, and you can tell them, yes, I've given it for 15 years, but you can't do it without proof. So you have to show whether you've got medical aid from whatever insurance company. So as long as you have proof, if you can prove 15 years medical aid, show it, especially if it's for the crew. Is Friday the final submission date, or will there be a further extension? Jan, at this stage, it is crunch time, and Friday is the date that everybody has to submit. I'm assuming it is at 12 o'clock. I don't know what the Gazette. I didn't read the Gazette in detail. I can probably go. Well, I mean, while you are there, maybe I can go. While you are there, let me go look what it says. I don't know if it's 12 o'clock or because I saw they've added it at the application submission. So let me see, maybe I can help. Extension Gazette. Let's see what it says. The application period is hereby extended from Tuesday 7 to midnight. So yeah, there you've got your answer, Jan. It will be midnight. It will be midnight on Friday. So Friday, you've got everything. Friday midnight. So you've got until midnight to submit. So you've got enough time. Yeah, no extension as of yet. Thank you, Mary Ann. Mark says, does it give one the ability to print, export some of the forms? So you can print it. So what I do, Mark, is I just, I right click and I print the document. It comes out a bit weird on the document. It doesn't come out as nicely. But let me show you what I've done is I've done the annexures. You can see the annexures is a different format. There's 1 to 10. And then here's the application form. Yeah. So also what's also not so nice about the application form is the red columns always stay red even if it's not applicable. So sometimes you think you're incomplete, but if it's not, don't worry about that. It remains red throughout the application process. Mary Ann, no, you can't print or export, but we have asked for it. So yeah, you can print your document. So you go to page 1, you right click print, you print it. You go to section 2, you right click print it, you can go. The only problem is you can't really see the annexures, and I think that was one of the challenges I had was the annexure. You have to download it and it opens to another thing. It would be nice if it could just pop up. You can see everything is fine. But I mean, yeah, it's the first time we're online. Shamiz, no problem, Shamiz, a pleasure. Will category C not be disadvantaged for not applicable? Lungelwa, if you don't have the information, you don't have the information. So remember, category A, category B, category C, they all scored differently because category C cannot be scored the same as category A for employment because you're a new company. What you need to do is, if you're category C, the 2 variables that you have for your application is your motivation and experience in the fishing industry. If you are in the fishing industry, explain to the department why they must give you the rights in motivation and fishing industry knowledge. In your business plan as well, show the department, right, you're giving me, if you give me quota, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to catch it here. These people are going to process it. And so for category C people, yeah, I think it's fill in the application as much as you can. And then you can be able to indicate or whether but you won't be penalized. You'll be scored based on your category. Anu says, what should I do if a document doesn't upload? Thanks in advance. So I've experienced that today with the South Coast Rock Lobster. I tried to upload a document. It just didn't want to. I've sent the email to IT. They've sent me email. They're busy. They will respond to me tomorrow. Then also the one other challenge was the 4 megabyte thing. I uploaded someone's annual financial statements and it said it was too large. I tried today, it still can't. So what I've done is I just split the annual financial statements in 2 and made it 4 megabytes each, whatever. And then I just said, I just added a A and a B to the annexure. So if it's too big, just split it up and then it's just you'll get gray hair worrying about it. I know. Mary Ann, we print function in case the open application on the side and everything has disappeared. So the print form or evidence Sue says there. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mary Ann. So it is Tuesday today. So if they're working on it, we need it like yesterday. Mark also asked if one does not have a catch agreement or vessel, to what extent will that be exclusionary factor? So remember, that I wanted to touch on that lastly. Remember, in the policies, exclusionary criteria, vessels is not an exclusionary criteria. Previously, they have given rights to people without fishing, without vessels. And then they were given the rights and they said, you need to go get the vessel within 3 months, or they've given a time frame. So But remember, there is also a scoring on the vessel, but it's not an exclusionary criteria. So you could be, because remember, at the end of the day, when it comes to the vessels, if imagine all the vessel owners just decided not to give anybody access, we wouldn't have any new entrants in the fishing industry. So that's why it's not the exclusionary criteria. But if you can illustrate that you've got experience and you've got the knowledge for the fishing industry, in the fishing industry, I'm sure they'll be able to look at they'll look at your points, and they'll possibly see whether they can give you a quota based on your points. So remember, what happens is you fill in your application form, they assess your application form, they give you a scoring of your application form. Once they give you a scoring of your application form, they throw it into a formula, and it throws out a percentage algorithm type E equals MC square thing, and then you then get a percentage of the total allocation once they put it into the formula. So that's how they do the scoring part of it. So your scoring for category A, B, and C, it makes you will have scoring, and they will be able to give you a percentage of the total TAC. So, I mean, I hope I answered some of the questions, because the ones I've been inundated with, a lot of people are stressing that the stuff don't upload. I've experienced it, and a lot of the times it's not nice doing an application and then it just disappears all of a sudden. I just want to go to Francois asked me about the oyster. Since a very, very long time ago, I'm a breadwinner. I don't want to lose a source of income. Francois, just again, oysters is not part of this application process. Don't worry about that. And then Louisa also asked, just need clarity on a question for a current right holder. Please, the question before I fill in the permit details. Are you referring to future plans regarding your harbor offloading and? Yes, Teresa, 100% correct. It is for future plans. So I mentioned in the application, form that the top part, I don't have the section with me now. I'm amazed. It's amazing I don't know all the next-gen names, but if you look at just where you're delivering, where you're offloading, the harbor name, you can see where the first section 8.7 is where have you landed and processed and the quantities at that stage. And the next section 18 is future looking. So the top one is past and the bottom one is future. So those are some of the questions. So I think the ones that popped up the most in terms of questions was there was a massive problem with uploading. And then also very important is there is no deadline for registration to get onto the portal. There's no deadline. People thought the deadline was the 7th when the applications came out. When the applications were available, there's no deadline for registration. It can still be done. Just remember, if you are traditional line fish, please just use individual, because you're not going to get traditional line fish if you use company. And please use company if you're doing individual, if you want to get into the commercial sector. So those are some of the questions that popped up. I just want to see if I just made any marks here. CSI, we've touched on the CSI. Investment economic units we touched on. The annexures changed, we touched on. You must just note the annexure differences. And then the PE. Yeah, so I think I've touched on all the questions. Mary Ann says the info, that if your info disappears, it's fine because they can see it. We have asked for a formal letter on that. We can't go on here say, okay, 100%, Mary Ann. I've experienced information disappear. It's frustrating, but I think I log out, I log in, and then something happens again. I think the frustration is that when you think you finish the application form and then you go back and some of the information is gone. But anyway, there's a deadline on Friday and we have to submit before Friday because there's a lot at stake. So for all of you that joined in, thanks so much. I mean, if you have any questions, you're welcome to send it to me. I'm going to some of the questions that were given here. I'll see if I can send them to the department so they can give a formal response, and then I'll just post it on my blog or something. So, okay. Thank you so much. Hour 20 minutes. I'm talking too long. Hope I helped. Okay. Goodbye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Pleasure, Mark. Thanks, Nolan. Midnight. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.